When you focus on the negative 3D, what happens is that your reality continues to show you the negative 3D. I'll show you today how your inner reality actually needs to stabilize in order for these circumstances to shift. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. It's a very hot, sunny summer's day in London, so excuse me if I get overheated, but I'm excited to share today's video. A few different new points and perspectives that came to me as I was planning this video, so definitely going to go over all the key points, some new perspectives that I've gained as of filming in July 2026. So do stay tuned to hear all about how to prevent these negative circumstances, what is actually going on internally, what needs to shift, and then finally how to really lock it in. So definitely keep watching, and now let's get into it. Movement is really going to get propelled forward if you stay focused on positive 3D events as well as the news stories. So let's kind of break that down a little bit. So with positive 3D events, I mean anything positive that you can reference. Usually within SP, there is some type of history or communication, something positive, even if it's just tied to your self-concept in dating. Maybe men or women have complimented you, you've had some positive examples that kind of boost and stabilize your identity, even though we shouldn't rely on validation. Let's be honest, it does boost our confidence when people compliment us or anything like that. So when your inner reality gets stabilized and when your self-concept gets stabilized, or you see any kind of positive 3D event, a conversation with SP, for example, even if it was a month ago something happened, or just anything positive that boosts your manifestation, stay focused on that, take that as a win, use it as a stepping ladder for your confidence, your motivation and belief in your manifestation, as well as the news stories. So that goes without saying. If you watch my other videos, if you know how manifesting works, then it's basically just about putting your focus on repetition, normalizing the outcome that you want to your mind, to your subconscious, and repeating that, applying consistency. And when you focus on that, that's really how movement gets propelled forward. And you are, in a way, I'm answering the question to the video title, you are in a way already stopping any negative circumstances from developing. Following on from that, it is important to kind of think in that way and also understand that when you are not reliant on the 3D reality for validation, meaning you're not waiting around, you're not sitting around, you're not panicking and judging every negative circumstance or every lack of visible movement just because you think, okay, the 3D is going to tell me what's going on. When you happen to see the positives, you celebrate it, you use it as motivation, as I said, but you're not sat around waiting for validation, waiting to feel good just because something shows up in your 3D. So when you get in that get out of that mindset, I should say, and you stop being reliant on the 3D, you are creating your own rules and outcomes. You're basically saying, I'm not ruled by the 3D reality. I don't let circumstances tell me what's going on, or I don't just accept the negative circumstance as, the final outcome, or let it dictate my day, my week, my entire manifesting experience. You're creating your own outcomes, your own rules by saying, I'm in control. I'm not going to pay attention to this. I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to revise it. Whatever you want to do, whatever mental approach of then focusing on the new version, you do that. You're creating your own rules of where your focus goes, your emotional state, regulating your nervous system, your belief in manifestation, just a huge list of benefits when you do that. And then that obviously all directly impacts the outcome of your manifestation, the way movement comes together. But for the topic of this video, specifically, you're preventing negative circumstances from being perpetuated, worsened, or even just created from scratch. And what really matters and why that is such a good approach and a good principle to hold on to is because your perception of the 3D reality is what really matters. It doesn't matter what someone says, does, what's going on, outside of you, in front of you, in your life, in your reality day to day. Your perception of it, the way you react, the assumption, the story you tell about it. Like I said, maybe it's mental diet, applying revision, you want to revise something, ignore, part of a statement or argument that someone said to you, especially if it's your SP, just shifting your perception in a way where it benefits your outcome mentally. So you don't completely change your life or do things that are destructive to you or anything else where you're, being delusional in a bad way, but mentally what you hold on to, what you tell yourself, what you remind yourself of, and what you let yourself mentally and emotionally react to. You are deciding that. It's your perception. You get to say, oh, no, SP never said that, and immediately revise, apply your affirmations, that type of approach. You're literally creating your own perception and reaction to what's going on. So as you're no longer catastrophizing your 3D, jumping to worst case scenario, and getting out of those habits. That's you literally shifting your reaction and assumptions about your 3D reality, about the current circumstances, even about past circumstances. I have lots of clients who still hold on to that and struggle to completely let go of that mentally and emotionally. But what you're doing is taking your nervous system out of threat mode. So basically your nervous system, even your neural pathways in your brain, just everything going on internally, the way you feel, feeling calm, the emotions and emotional kind of signals that are being sent across your body when something good happens or something bad happens, it's being regulated, it's being shifted, it's becoming more positive because you're not kind of feeding into it consciously by catastrophizing and spiraling, as we would say in manifestation, and just thinking really negatively and having a really bad, crappy day because something bad happened in the 3D, or you've been reminded of a bad memory or something. When you get out of that state and that really isn't your norm anymore, and it almost never happens, for example, or you've completely cut it out and you're on a really strict mental diet, your nervous system, your body is literally responding to that. So of course, what that all means for your manifestation, for the quality of circumstances that you experience, it's regulating your system and it's making movement and accepting those new assumptions easier for your brain, for your subconscious mind. If your body reacts positively, if you feel, positive emotions, more of like a neutral state even, don't you think that will absolutely propel and boost forward your manifestation? If you feel confident, motivated, positive, grateful, hopeful, imagine how much easier it's going to be to build up those new assumptions and even just staying motivated. So of course, the goal is to just keep creating these new beliefs. Keep this really positive cycle going, perpetuate the positive cycle, the new story, as I always say. So you're building on these assumptions more and more until they start to solidify into beliefs in your subconscious. You're basically tricking your subconscious with these affirmations, visuals, whatever you might be doing. It's all going to become easier and normalized to your mind and your literal body. Guys, if you are serious about staying focused on your manifestation, as I've been talking about in this video, and lots more advice to come, but if you are serious about that, then I really recommend considering joining us at LOA Coaching Darling. So it is my YouTube membership. A lot of you guys will already be familiar or already members. And for just $8.99 a month, you get to join in everyone who is currently voting on which exclusive videos and challenges that they want to see this month. So I don't want anyone to miss out who's interested, because sometimes people join in late and then they've missed out on the earlier challenges of the month. So if you're interested, click the join button below. And of course, creating new beliefs does require you to be disciplined, having self-discipline and, repetition and just building up these practices and habits. And it does get easier, trust me. It can feel very foreign and weird, and your conscious mind can definitely push back and emotions can push back and not connect to it straight away. The more you do it, the more you'll believe in it, the more you'll feel confident, and persistence really is that key. So really what's going to happen is your core beliefs, assumptions, and where your more long-term or dominant focus has been. And when I say long-term, it doesn't have to be weeks, months, years. It could just be, like I said, a lot of repetition. That's why repetition is so key. It could be even a couple of days and it really starts reflecting in your 3D, just shifting like that. So when you start to build up this new identity, the repetition, holding on to this new version of you and your reality, meaning you with the desired outcome that you want, starting to believe in your affirmations, that is when your core beliefs get reflected, and those assumptions, even if they're not fully formed, obviously movement can happen well before that, starts to reflect in your reality. So as you're doing this, if you implement this practice, if you're consistent, then you will know your circumstances are shifting. Even if it's a little bit subtle, maybe not quite visible yet, you know it's happening, you know it's coming together. This is the first step. You need to connect to that new identity, the new version of your reality, for it all to come together. It's the version of you who is focused and trusting and confident, intuitive, and basically seeing and knowing that your reality is changing for you. Reality isn't happening to you. You will see and trust that it's happening for you. It's all changing according to where your focus goes, the goals that you are focused on and working towards. So having this confidence and trusting in the process, in yourself, in your ability, being intuitive and aware, all these kind of descriptive, emotional, mental states and adjectives, those are all examples of how you will know the place you will get to. And that's the version of you that you want to keep focusing on. So building up, that's what I mean by new identity. I wanted to elaborate on that because it might be like, what new identity? What do you mean I have to re-identify myself? So it's just kind of this evolved, better version of you where you're not in this up and down spiral cycle of your emotions and mental state all over the place. You kind of stabilize it. You gain a lot of self-awareness, being present in the moment, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. And yeah, just trusting how everything is coming together for you. It is only once your inner reality stabilizes that these changes start to become visible and really come in. So movement starts straight away. So I'm not saying you have to immediately change who you are and how you think and everything has to become perfect in order to see it. It's happening like that, but for the real change, the real, shift in circumstances and really seeing your world around you, your literal life start to change, it does take consistency and persisting. That is the key element. So what really happens with preventing anything negative from continuing or starting, having the positive circumstances that either you've seen or that you're working towards already, really come in and just become your life. Like you trust in it, you know it, this is now your life. It does need that internal shift first. So focusing on the identity of you already being there, which does mean thinking as if you're already there. So I like to clarify this, and it is tied into something I learned online. I'm not necessarily coining this phrase, but it was a really fascinating thought that really identified the distinctions of, not having your desire versus having your desire. So what goes on mentally is that having a desire for your reality and for that outcome is future oriented, whereas identity and embodying it and, having that be your identity in the present moment, it's present oriented. It's in the present moment rather than thinking that's far away from me. I'm reaching out to try and achieve this outcome versus it's mine now. I identify with it. I see it. I imagine it. I speak to myself as if it's here right now. You're anchoring yourself in the present moment, teaching your mind, applying manifestation, speaking into existence, the version of reality that you want and telling yourself it is here now. And also remember, visible movement can take time. I've been distinguishing this a lot. I don't want to make a sweeping statement that people watch. Maybe if you haven't watched a lot of my other videos, you might hear something and, take it at face value or panic or get confused. And I always want to specify visible movement can take time. So when I say, this is what leads to movement coming in or coming together and everything working out for your circumstances, just trust that if you don't see it straight away, again, does not mean that it's not happening. It can take time, depending on where you're starting from, for that visible movement to come in. And I am going to explain how to literally lock in this momentum, so definitely keep watching. So once you really start to recognize those shifts and changes in yourself and other experiences that you may have in your reality, so basically just your whole life, how you go about your day, when you wake up, what state are you in, how you feel, how you carry yourself, what you think to yourself, your assumptions for the day, your levels of motivation, just everything, what you experience, what you get back from other people. All of those are signs that your circumstances are coming together. They are kind of shifting out of the negative, or they are becoming more and more positive, whether you're coming out of a bad state or whether you just want to make sure anything bad from the past does not come back in. That is another really important sign and distinction. So like I said, being self-aware, being present, putting that focus onto yourself as being, the version of you who already has it. Well, how would you think? How would you go about your day? You wouldn't be refreshing your phone every 10 seconds. You wouldn't be thinking certain concerns and questions to yourself over and over. So it takes time to build up. It does take self-awareness, but that identity and seeing and recognizing those shifts that are happening within you, the way you think and feel, and as well, literally what you're experiencing in your reality are major signs. So I did write down a couple examples. I want to get them right, so I'm going to read them out to you. Feeling more confident, social events, and positive conversations or compliments. So basically, how other people speak to you and treat you, that is a reflection. Even if you think, well, it's not really tied to what I'm manifesting, a self-concept reflection can really be a sign that your mindset is elevated. You're out of that questioning, doubtful state, even sometimes like self-loathing, self-blame, just anything where you're putting yourself down. all of those kind of mindsets and shifting out of that can be reflected literally just in how people speak to you and treat you. And I've heard this feedback from clients that whether it's an SP or something else, they just feel so much better and they're seeing it reflected in how people treat them. Social events, things that happen when you go out, or maybe even being invited to more events and just having great things happen. And then as this builds, as you start to recognize this and even just pinpoint 1 or 2 small developments and improvements, it leads into as well, you're removing the desire and the need for validation from the 3D, for checking for updates, for being impatient. You're basically not going to have that desire or focus on trying to analyze your circumstances. And the more you do that, the less relevant they become, the less prevalent, the less visible. All those things, less relevant, prevalent, and visible. That's what happens to them. They start to fade away, they shift. Your focus isn't there anymore. Your assumptions aren't there anymore. So you'll also notice it, as I touched on earlier, in your emotional state, feeling more positive, maybe some bursts of excitement, positive emotions, as you start to stay more and more consistent. And basically just thinking as if you already have what you want, which means your focus is not at all on any negative circumstance. You will start to feel that emotional change as well, which does tie into how manifestation comes in. And finally, before I finish up with my final section, fewer opposing thoughts is obviously part of it. So whether you've been actively working on a mental diet or it's just kind of been a secondary effect and impact of you having, a lot of repetition with visualizing, scripting, affirmations, maybe you haven't applied a very specific mental diet approach. As you do that, obviously you'll notice like your mindset is so much more positive. I want to remind you guys that it unfolds perfectly if you persist. This doesn't mean you have to spend your entire day focusing on it. I don't want you guys to drain yourselves trying to consciously manifest or think it has to be really, really difficult or really, really time consuming. But as you persist, the process, the progress, all the movement that needs to come together, the step 1, step 2, everything that ties in together, it comes together perfectly. We cannot predict how it will happen. The good thing is that movement is inevitable. So if you persist, it just comes together, movement evolves, movement develops. Like I said, you'll literally see and feel those shifts inside of yourself as well. Emotionally, mentally, you know yourself best. Be self-aware. It's such a good skill because then you just understand yourself and your needs better in general. But for manifesting, it is important as well as you go about your day. So just remember as well, even if it's not visible, it is unfolding. So you can lock it in just with your persistence. That's the most important thing. If you do nothing else, don't understand anything else, if you just persist with the mindset, thinking as if you already have it, that's going to help lock it in. And the way to get your subconscious mind to accept these new beliefs is through practiced repetition, building up a practice, applying consistent repetition. That's the only way your subconscious will override the old negative story, any limiting beliefs and questions and whatnot. The only way it can be done is through repetition. You have to literally practice it and teach your mind that. So you can't be applying conscious manifestation without literally creating shifts. It's a natural, permanent, objective byproduct. If you keep applying repetition, thinking a certain way, focusing on something, then that's the outcome that you're going to receive. And I'd also say utilize these subtle shifts to your benefit. Again, I know I keep saying it, but it is so important, the self-awareness. That's how you're going to recognize it. It's not a magic trick or rocket science. It's just being aware how you feel, any changes in yourself, what your intuition is telling you, what do you see or recognize a difference in interactions with people, what goes on in your life. Utilize that to your benefit by being aware when you react to something, and being present in the moment. So when you feel something specific as a reaction to something, whether it's mental or emotional, you recognize that, you can see that, and you can say, okay, this is how I feel about this. And you understand yourself a little bit better. All of it just ties in. So utilize those little small changes, positive or negative, to your benefit to understand, okay, this is how I can prevent these negative circumstances. And this is where I'm at currently internally. And regardless of what your 3D circumstances show you, just keep persisting. So remember those principles, that movement is always happening and you are always in control. And basically you can build on this assumption, as I said, becoming this identity of the confident person who knows how to utilize your mindset, how to think more positively, and the actual impact of that on your life to decide manifestation is working. This outcome is mine. This goal is already achieved. It's mine. It's coming to me right now.